Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm here to review National Champions. And this is from director Rick Roman Way and written by Adam Mervis, and takes on this story about a quarterback who's supposed to be playing in the college football national championship game and goes on strike trying to get players to get compensated for all the work that they do. And this is such a relevant story because this is such a hot button issue. All these young people are basically exploited by colleges to make hundreds of millions of dollars off of in some cases, and they don't see a penny of it, but they use their performances as their way of bringing in people. And this is a big story. It's shot and perceived in a raw and realistic kind of way, how the camera is almost documentarian at times, voyeuristic even, and it has a distinct look to it. It's not something where it's very artistic and particularly interesting looking, but it's something where it's you feel in it. And I feel like this story needed this, but this was almost a 2-hour film, just under, and it did not need to be because there's just certain things that didn't need to be in this movie. It didn't make a whole lot of sense to me that there's just, it's an overstuffed kind of film, and the direction from Way, it works, and it's fine, but there's definitely some pacing issues at times because it's just you're sitting there, it's when's this going to move on? When are we going to get to the next thing? When are we going to get back? It's one of those things where things weren't as compelling as other things, and then you just get bored and uninterested when those aspects are on, and all you want to do is get back to the main story. And that's one of the biggest issues here, and it's clunky in the way that it deals with some of these things and all these excess threads. You have J.K. Simmons, who's a head coach, whose wife is having an affair with a professor. Did we really need to have Timothy Olyphant in this movie? No. Did we really need to have him without a shirt on in bed? No. Some might argue. But with this, it's was this necessary? And it didn't feel like it. There's definitely threads where it's just there's just so many little pieces going on, and I could see they're trying to hit on all these different kinds of things, but this adultery by the wife of this coach had nothing to do with the bearings of this film. And yeah, it might have been used as a persuasion later, but there's other things that this film sets up that are much, much worse that are being used in that manner. So then what's the point of this affair going on in this film and focusing any time on it? Just because you want to have Kristin Chenoweth and Timothy Olyphant getting some screen time doesn't mean it's worth it. And you do have at the center here Stephen James, Alexander Ludwig. Those two both have some really good chemistry. Ludwig really tries to force a lot of movie references. Very odd. But you could feel their friendship, and Stephen James gives an incredibly subtle but powerful performance, because there's moments where it's you feel it all on his face. You could see exactly what he's feeling. And you have J.K. Simmons, who is shooting for that second Oscar, and he has extremely powerful emotional moments towards the end of the film, and J.K. Simmons is just killing it. So there's no arguing with that. But you have all of these other character actors, and you have Tim Blake Nelson playing a guy, and is he gay? There's hinting at that, and was it really significant to the story? But no, just kind of throw that in there. You have Lil Rel Howery, who's one of the other coaches, and he's entertaining. You have Whammy. You have Champ Kind, or Packard, if you're a fan of The Office, who's in this, and he's just a caricature of a big sports guy. And you have Jeffrey Donovan, who's one of the sponsor guys, and basically they all kind of just turn out to be evil and overly simplified caricatures of evil villains. And at one point, Jeffrey Donovan's character is we're inevitable. I'm I turned to Jess, and she's just don't say it. I'm inevitable. Yep. Thanos. Basically, they're trying to go Marvel supervillains here, and it's just it felt obnoxious and weird and over the top and cheesy in a film that's trying to be so raw and poignant and meaningful. So, like, those issues didn't really work as well. And like I mentioned before, Kristin Chenoweth and Timothy Olyphant really didn't even need to be in this movie. But they were. They're there. You get some Timothy Olyphant. You get some Kristin Chenoweth. I do think this is a very important story. This is a really relevant idea, concept, and something that I honestly believe in. This should be something. These students are student workers getting drilled into the ground, and they should be compensated for it. And this is an important story. It just felt like it was bogged down in a bunch of excess melodrama with all these extra threads that didn't need to be there. Focus on the story and focus on that message, or make those other things even, like, those things more, just as compelling as what's going on, and then maybe you won't notice as much with it. But that wasn't the case here. And I just felt like on some level this lacks the impact that it could have. But in the end, I think National Champions is a fine film, just fine, and with a strong message. But those are my thoughts on National Champions. Let me know what you think, and let's talk some movies. But thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland reviewer.